appreciate it.
My next guest is a gun rights advocate who says the Bushmaster semi-automatic rifle, the type of rifle that Adam Lanza used to kill 20 children and 6 more adults, is, quote, a blast to shoot with. Joining me now is Phillip Van Cleave. He's president of the Virginia Citizens Defense League. Mr. Van Cleave, I want to read you what you said on Sunday to the Washington Post. He said, I could ask you, when asked about the use of these type of weapons, why should anyone want a Ferrari? Bushmasters are absolutely a blast to shoot with. They're fast, they're accurate. Guns are fun. Some of them are much more cool than others. It's just like we have television sets that look cool and others are much more boxy. Are you proud of what you said?
It's just a fact. We're talking about firearms. I'm an instructor, and when I teach people how to shoot, you should see their face light up the first time they shoot a firearm. It's nothing like what they expected. It is a lot of fun. It's just the nature of guns. It's been a part of our country for 250 years.
Do you think this is a time to talk about guns being fun when 20 children aged 5 years old have been blown to pieces by a weapon that is freely available in this country?
Well, you need to ask the reporter, because he was the one that approached me with the particular questions. I simply answered them because he was trying to understand. He was not a gun person, didn't understand anything about guns, so I was trying to be helpful.
Well, why don't you try and be helpful and educate me? Why does anybody in America who's not in the military or the police force need a semi-automatic weapon that can unleash hundreds of shots in a matter of a few minutes and slaughter innocent Americans?
And we do understand it's not a machine gun. I just want to make that clear. There's a lot of confusion. People think this is about machine guns.
No, I understand very carefully. My brother's a British Army colonel. Okay? I know what weapons are. It's a semi-automatic rifle. It's the same rifle that was used in Aurora. And I have many people who were affected by that with me tonight live after this. And also in the Oregon shopping mall shooting. I know exactly what this machine can do. I know exactly what it did to these children. I want you to tell me why you continue to believe that this weapon and the type of weapons like it should be freely available to Americans when they are being used for a series, and it is an epidemic now. 6 of the worst mass shootings in American history have occurred since 2007. Why you persist in wanting this to be freely available to Americans?
Well, automobiles kill more people on our streets than guns do, but we don't say we shouldn't have them because some maniac that's drunk ends up driving a car into a family and killing them. This was a misuse of something by clearly somebody that was mentally unstable. Why should then the rest of the country, with hundreds of millions of gun owners in America that didn't do anything wrong with their guns, why are we turning to them as if this was their fault? This is not their fault. This was a maniac in a state that had a lot of gun control, in a gun-free zone, that ignored every law there was and murdered all those poor little children.
So you don't want any more form of gun control in this country? You're quite happy with where things are?
Oh, absolutely. Crime has been falling in America. In fact, since the assault weapon ban that was put in place years ago by Senator Feinstein, even after that expired, our crime rates continued to go down in America. The violent crime rate is down. The assault weapon ban didn't do...
How many people get killed with guns, get murdered with guns a year in your country, do you know?
Well, most of it's either suicides or criminal shootings.
That wasn't what I asked you. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
20,000.
I didn't ask you about suicides. I asked you how many people were murdered with guns in America, on average, in the last 2 or 3 years. Do you know that figure?
I don't, because the FBI clumps it together with suicides.
They don't, actually. It's very easy to find. It's about 11 to 12,000. Do you know how many get killed with guns?
I haven't heard that number. That makes sense.
Okay. Do you know how many on average get killed in Britain or Germany or Australia? And I particularly mention Britain and Australia because in 1996 we had a very similar attack in Dunblane in Scotland that killed 16 young 5- and 6-year-old children. We brought in a national handgun ban. In Australia, they went further. They actually had a government initiative to bring back guns. They would give people money in return for the guns. They banned assault weapons of the type we are seeing here, causing this tragedy. And guess what? There's been no more shootings in schools in Britain since Dunblane, since that ban came in. And there's been no mass shooting in Australia whatsoever since 1996.
But
I say to you again, this statistic of 11 to 12,000 murders from guns It is way, way ahead of any of the civilized countries of this world. It is disgrace to America and to the American people that has continued to happen. And the reason it happens, sir, and I say this with respect to you, is your facetious attitude, comparing it to cars. The fact that even after 20 children are blown to pieces, you still see no problem in this ridiculous assault weapon being freely available on the streets of your country, and that there may be a load of other deranged young men who want to make a name for themselves who can just go and get one and find it easier to buy one than it is to buy a pet. This is shameful to America, and people like you are allowing it to continue. And when you talk about guns being fun, and about this being the Ferrari of weapons, I say to you, this is not the time to talk about guns being fun.
Well, talk to the press about that. You guys have sure been pushing that issue, asking these kind of questions. If you think it's inappropriate, you really do need to talk to some of your fellow people in the press.
I think it's inappropriate, yes.
They ask the question like you're asking questions.
I think it's inappropriate the day after 20 children are murdered to compare these guns to Ferraris.
I agree. He shouldn't.
Yes, I do.
He asked me a series of questions.
Yeah, you answered the questions. You answered the questions. They didn't put the words into your mouth. And I asked you today if you were proud of them, and you stood by it. You said it was the truth.
It is the truth. You want me to lie? You want political correctness? Shouldn't be silencing everybody's speech.
It's not about being politically correct. It's about this, sir, with respect. This debate is not about the Second Amendment. It's not about the Bill of Rights. There are already extensive gun controls in this country. Extensive. What this is about reacting to an appalling tragedy, the like of which America has never seen before. In the last 5 months, there's been the worst ever single shooting in Aurora. 70 people shot. There's been the worst ever school shooting. 20 children, aged 5 years old. And America is looking to people. America is looking. Oh, do stop being so facetious. You think this young man?
No, they do. I'm serious. No.
And do you think it's because they're gun-free zones?
Do you? People can't defend themselves.
You think so? You believe this theory that if everyone in that movie theatre was armed, they would have all stood up and shot him?
Everyone.
How many do you want to be armed in that movie theatre?
I believe somebody firing at him would have slowed him down or possibly stopped him.
Yes, you're aware of the shooting.
He would have not been able to carry.
You're aware of the shooting in New York recently, where police fire, and these are expert marksmen used to handling firearms, actually shot 8 people. You're aware of that, are you? But they were police officers.
This is where I need to point out to you. I was a deputy sheriff, so I know a little bit more about law enforcement than you do.
Really?
And that highly trained, yes, the highly trained part you talk about for a patrol officer is not what you think it is.
You explain to me why you think arming every movie theatre, shopping mall and school in this country, when you already have 300 million guns, is going to help this appalling culture of gun violence in America. You tell me, even as I speak, I can tell you gun sales will be rising in Connecticut because of people like you. People will be saying, I've got to arm myself. And every time it happens, more guns get into circulation and more of these outrages happen. And at some point, you and your colleagues who support no extra gun control are going to have to wake up and smell the coffee.
Actually, Feinstein's bill, when she puts that in, you're going to see a rise in assault weapon sales like you've never imagined. So it's going to work just the opposite of what she wants. Gun control never works. It fails everywhere it's tried, and this will just be another example if she ever does get it passed.
Yeah, but as I already said to you, gun control has worked very successfully in Britain, in Australia, in Japan. Japan has the toughest gun control in the world. They have 2 or 3 murders a year. You have 11 to 12,000.
How many suicides do they have?
11 to 12,000 murders from guns a year in America, and you still don't care, do you?
Suicides are higher in Japan than they are in America. They don't use guns. They have all kinds of ways to kill themselves. And you have a different culture in England. What's hurt this country is the drugs. The drugs have changed everything. You didn't hear about these shootings when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, and then you didn't even need a background check to buy a gun. Now, with all the drugs, all the stuff we're treating kids with these psychotic drugs, it's causing some real problems in our community. Almost all of these kids that have murdered, if you look at them, they have been treated with drugs for their mental problems. And it's changing something. It's taking away their empathy, where they could do this kind of horrible thing and not feel remorse or fear or terror of what they're doing. They just go on like a machine. That's the problem in America. It's drugs more than anything.
I'm glad you've told me what the problem is, Phillip Van Cleave. Thank you for joining me. When we come back, I'm going to talk to the people sitting with me here in the studio. They're all
fucking moron. Have some goddamn respect.